Good morning, task force members, members of IAD staff, and members of the public who are in attendance at this meeting. My name is Delilah Tenorio. I sit as the chair for the systems subcommittee for the task force. And, just like everybody else, we have been working through at least that initial, those initial topics that were identified by the task force's report to the governor and the legislature at the end of 2020. We've had some, monthly meetings. We've also had some outside meetings with agencies that that we've identified who would be beneficial in creating relationships with, and we've helped and given our feedback on the two legislative proposals that have at least come through our way, and we're able to provide some input and focus for those two items. Moving forward, I think we fully intend to continue to work on those goals or objectives that were identified in the legislative report, and continue to build on the not only the momentum that I think we have behind MMIWR, but also the work that has already been done in moving all of this forward. And of course, that means, I think, trying to focus on those areas where we believe not only we can have, sort of some kind of immediate impact, but also have that sustainability and consistency. Because, when we sit through these meetings, I think that that's what we're hearing, is that there's this lack of that consistency, there's this lack of that transparency, and there isn't, much sustainability regarding investigations into MMIWR in terms of, what resources are available to families who are going through that process. And I think, at least from the standpoint of the systems subcommittee, that's something I think that's important, but also very necessary. And again, we just hope to continue our work to be able to do that for this task force. And that's all I have, unless anybody has any questions.
Anybody have clarifying questions for Delilah? All right. Thank you so much, Delilah. And if folks think of other questions later, you can always reach out. Delilah, if you don't mind putting your contact in the chat again, even though the contact sheet is on the Google Drive. So next up, we have Maddie and Beata, who are co-chairing the Community Impact Subcommittee. Who'd like to go first?
I could. Hi, everyone. This is Maddie Jim. So with our Community Impact Subcommittee, I think I wanted to highlight the last meeting that we had, where we did give recommendations and we had discussion questions around the legislative proposal. And I think that was like the biggest priority. And I felt that was a very productive meeting, because we had a lot of input of what we wanted to include in the legislative proposals. And a part of that is what was just said in the systems committee, of how, like, who we want to include, who we want to work with, what we want to do, and also creating an office and what that will represent and how that will be represented. So really looking out in the community's interests on what is needed. And I think it gives evidence of what we heard today with the testimonial that we had of why it's important to establish an office, or also establishing relationships on how we provide those services in a timely manner that needs to be done. So reiterating that, and then also I think Amber made a good point of like, what can we do from our committee to support what's going on outside of this task force, like with the Navajo Nation. And I think even replicating some of the stuff that we recommend here would be great within tribal communities or entities and working in that sense. So yeah, that I wanted to highlight that meeting that we had, and moving forward and really looking at how we address some of these objectives for our policy objectives, or looking at how we're going to go back and look at some of those recommendations that we want to add on, or to make addendums to, or to even think of more stuff that could be recommended in what we want to do with the work. So Beata, I don't know if you are on the call, if you want to add anything.
I'm on, but you covered it pretty good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I guess that's all we have, unless anybody has questions.
Well, beautiful teamwork. Anybody have questions for Maddie or Beata? All right. Again, if co-chairs, if you don't mind adding your contact again to the chat, just so it's easy and referenceable for folks if they do have questions, that would be fantastic. Next up, yeah, thank you. Next up, we have Chastity Sandoval and Deputy Taft Tracy, and I understand that you all have a PowerPoint, and so if we can go ahead and pull that up for their update, that would be fantastic. And I'll pass it to you, Chastity, and if someone can pull up her PowerPoint, that would be great.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Lily. Well, I'll just introduce myself, sorry. Yeah, Teano Scotia, yeah, Chastity Sandoval, yeah, Task Indian Shligo Hashklasha Bashachin, Chachachachin, Kilhachini Dashanal, Aro Eya Stanshla. I am the chairperson for the data subcommittee, and I work with a lot of amazing individuals. I give so much props to my group. They bring a lot of knowledgeable things to the table, and you know, when assignments are given to each individual, they are on it. They provide what they can. So with our updates, I did have a little PowerPoint, and okay, there we are. Thank you. Go ahead to the next slide, please. Thank you. So October 7th was a really important meeting for us. We had invited Elizabeth Arvalo, I'm sorry if I'm butchering that name, and she's the legislative director. And so she was asked to join our meeting and to touch base on having to do a revision and to modify entering a person into the data system and adding the tribal affiliation as well onto the form and to enter into the NCIC. And one thing we wanted to also address was having to, a couple meetings back was Maddie had brought up a really good point, and that is to identify a person by their gender as well. And we wanted to have that added into the meeting. And then we also worked on the legislative proposal, and that's for the Missing Persons Day event. And we're looking at a pending date for early spring of May 2022. We don't have a set date yet on that. And we had a Detective Summershoe that has worked with Arizona on this and talking about the logistics of it. How do we organize this? Who do we need to invite? What entities and programs do we want at this event? And also having people on standby for, to give resources to provide help as far as counseling, anything like that. And so it's going to be a really interesting process to get that going. But I think it could be done. And then also we had Regina Chacon and Sergeant Sosi work on modifications with the clearinghouse form. And they had their own little Zoom meeting and worked on that as well. I don't know if anybody has any questions, or if anyone else that from my group would like to add anything, please do so. And that's all I have for you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chastity. And so that invitation is out there to the rest of the subcommittee who works on data. Anything you want to add to Chastity's report? Beautiful. Chastity, I'll ask you to share your contact information. And also, I know that sometimes in the moment, our questions come later, not right in the moment. So letting folks know how to connect if they have questions or want more details on some of your updates. So we're going to shift gears from the subcommittees, but each of you who is taking time and energy and bringing your talents and good thinking to those subcommittees, that is really important, right? Because there's great work that happens in the task force as a whole, and there's a lot of rolling up the sleeves that looks like it's happening in the subcommittees. And so whether you have been coming faithfully or life is busy and you catch as catch can, know that you're always welcome back at the table. And resources about subcommittees and the meeting notes are available on the Google Drive, which is accessible to everyone. And if you have forgotten how to get in there, I know the team at IAD is more than happy to help you find your way back in. So never be hesitant, because life took you away for a while. We still need you. So what we're going to do now is spend some time, and I'm going to hand it over to Eldred, who's going to introduce our legislative panel. Eldred?
One second here. I'm turning on my camera.
Good to see
Hello,
you.
everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes.
It's nice to be with you all today. I'm so excited to be presenting this next panel. We have two wonderful panelists today, members of our task force and members of our state legislature. So I would more than be happy to pass the mic over to them to do their self-introductions. We will start with Representative Andrea Romero and then go to Representative Georgine Lewis. So Representative Romero, please, would you please introduce yourself to the group?
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Eldred. Thank you to everybody here today. Such a great group, always. The participation in this task force is just always incredible. And I hope we can extend that to our legislative session. That's what we're here to talk about today. I represent Northern Santa Fe County, where we have 4 Indigenous pueblos, Tesuque, Pohuaca, Nambe, and San Ildefonso pueblos. So it's very important to me that how we started this in 2019 and just getting an idea for a task force formed, how we have brought this to fruition really is kudos to you all and your commitment and your incredible participation in this. I just want to thank you all for what you can, any way that we can help is our commitment to what we can do here and in the future of our state. So we're all ears. I know I am as far as the future goes, and you all having elevated this issue at the state and national and even international levels makes our job so much easier when we talk about how important this issue is. So thank you again for being here, and feel free to always reach out. I'll make sure to have my information in the chat as well. Thank you.
Thank you. And Representative Lewis?
Kawatsi. Hello, everyone. I'm Georgine Lewis. I'm a member of the Pueblo of Acoma, and I represent House District 26, which is located in Southwest Albuquerque. And we had a great presentation by Stephanie and Secretary Trujillo at our last Indian Affairs Committee meeting. And I really want to thank everyone for making that report possible. I know it takes a lot of time and energy out of all our busy lives, but I think everyone that's been involved has been super dedicated to the issue and really working hard to make sure that we have some solutions to this crisis. So thank you for your work. And I'm here, I'm happy to help. And yeah, look forward to the discussion.
Thank you so much. And Lily, please step in if you would like to facilitate the questions, but I can jump in with the first one if you like.
Yeah, go for it. Thank you, Eldred.
Okay. Well, as we all were discussing earlier, we do have a couple of proposals on the table for this next legislative session. So we'll get started with an easy question, I guess, Representative. Can you tell us a little bit about logistics for the 2022 legislative session? How many days we're looking at, the dates, whether it be in person, virtual, so anything that you would have in terms of logistics for the task force that they should know coming up for January. And we can start with Representative Romero and then go to Representative Lewis.
Yeah, sure. Sorry, I wanted to make sure I got my dates right. We start in January. It's the week of, I have it open now, the 17th. So starting on the 18th, just after Martin Luther King Jr. Day is when our special, well, I guess it's a budget session. So it's only 30 days, which just means that whatever policy initiatives that we want to get on the table, it has to come from the governor's office in their direct call. So we've had this discussion as well with the folks here in the task force that because of public safety across the state, we're hopeful that if she writes in that we're going to be covering public safety, that any bills that we bring forth will be germane. So we got 30 days from the 18th of January to I believe the 22nd of February. And forgive me, I have it on my calendar, but I haven't looked at it in depth this morning. But that said, I believe we're going to be in person for the most part. We have no idea how the public's going to be able to engage safely. We anticipate that we will still be in the midst of a pandemic in January, I believe, for our leadership to help design and designate certain committee hearings. So we have already promised from our speaker that we'll always have hybrid committee hearings, which means that we'll be on Zoom and in person. So that is amazing for participation for me, because if you know how it works, it's very much a fluid process for when we speak, when our bills are heard, when we're able to have the floor. So it's just amazing that we're able to use this technology there. So with that, we hope to see you starting January 18th until who knows, because I can't recall. But anyways, we definitely want your participation, and I'll let Rep. Lewis fill in because I missed a lot. Sorry about that.
I think you actually got most of it, so thank you. Just for everyone's information, we always start on the third Tuesday in January. So in the odd numbered years, we go into 60-day sessions, and that's really anything. And then like Rep. Romero said, on even years, it's 30 days, and that's generally the budget session plus anything the governor wants to put on the call. Also, our website is really great and informative. It's nmlegis.gov. And there you can look at different activities happening throughout the Roundhouse, including committee meetings. And there you can find, at least I think on the House side, where I think we're more user-friendly, where we have our Zoom links there for public participation. And I think, one of the silver linings of the pandemic is that it's really opened up us to technology so that the speaker is willing to allow public input instead of everyone having to drive many hours and, depending on your location, take that time off and wait for committee hearings and wait, to be heard. Public participation will be allowed via Zoom. So that's something to look forward to. And again, check out the website. It's very informative. You can even look up your own representative, your own senator, and reach out to them for all those issues that are important to you and your family and your community.
Thank you. And before we get into the main meat of the discussion, I also want to ask a little bit about what are specific challenges for advocates during the 30-day in relation to a 60-day, especially if we're trying to advocate for these two really great bills that we're going to push forward. Any thoughts on that, Representative Lewis?
Really, the time is crucial because, it's still the same process where legislation has to go through both chambers. So depending on when your bill is heard in committee and how that passes over to the other side, that's really important. So I think speaking to your representatives early, even before the session, to let them know how important, pieces of legislation are to you. And then in terms of the committee members that will be voting on those bills, reach out to them as well. But unfortunately, it's just timing. So we're going to work really hard. We were really efficient this past session, and I hope that we're able to be very productive and efficient this upcoming session.
Yeah, I think just echoing what Rep. Lewis was saying is that this body is from representative of folks all around the state. That's so empowering for you guys to contact your legislator, your representative and your senator, and get them on board with this early and often, especially because we already have most of a proposal that they know that when they see it, they're like, this is important to our constituents, and we can hold them to that. So I appreciate anyone speaking up now and knowing that they are also calling the governor saying we want this on the call as well.
Well, that's such a great recommendation, because we can, as members of or citizens of New Mexico, we can contact our state legislators, our representatives, anybody, to just let them know that this is something we're really passionate about and really care for. And with that in mind, looking at these two recommendations, we have one for Missing Persons Day in New Mexico, which is mirroring that of Arizona. We also have the other one with the MMIWR office establishment, which is mirroring that of Minnesota. Just given your expertise and your work and really being involved in MMIW work with the state legislature, do you have any recommendations for the task force or any initial thoughts relating to those proposals first, and then maybe recommendations on how to get involved relating to advocating for these proposals?
I don't mind going first if that's okay with you, Rep. So getting involved, I think is first and foremost contacting your legislator. So because we get bombarded with like so many emails, especially during the session, we want to hear from our constituents. So looking up your representative, your senator, and reaching out to them to say, hey, I'm your constituent. I live, XYZ, and this is really important to me. This is really important to my family, and this is why. Be just concise. Again, everyone's getting bombarded. If you can reach out early, that's really important. So I think that's step number one. Step number two is, whether we're in person or virtual, I hope we're in person, to attend a committee meeting, especially where legislation is being heard, and really speak up in whether you're in support or in opposition. Again, just be as brief and concise as possible. But if you have a story, share your story. Legislators want to hear how this impacts you, how this impacts your family and your community. So sharing that story is really, really important. If you're a member of an organization, I am president of this organization. We have X number of participants or members. We do this, and this issue is really important. If your organization or association, whatever it may be, has passed some kind of resolution in support or in opposition, also state that as well. And again, just reiterate, this is supported by this many members, just to get your point across. So yeah, I think those are two very important things you can do. But if you are able to reach out to your legislator, that's really important. They want to hear from you.
Yeah, excuse me. Think that that's excellent advice. I would just say, because there's probably two separate bills that we're looking at, is to kind of team up with groups, because they're probably going to go through different processes. One's going to go to different committees, and the other is going to go to others. possibly. So just kind of figuring out that team effort of tracking the bill and how it's going to go through the process, and just being able to alert. So one of the most effective things that we've done for bills that even we're covering is to have folks, text you when it's moving through the process. Okay, we need everyone to move over, kind of a phone tree in real time. The best thing about Zoom is that you can watch things happening in multiple screens. So that's very helpful. Again, going back to the advocacy piece, I would just say that, having something like speaking to the task force that you participated in, which led to the creation of that, that's so important in telling the story of how it's come about and your participation in that, and being able to elevate your voices, that this is what's really coming to fruition now. I think just the power in numbers that are here speaking to this process that you've all been a part of, just helps us get to that next step, that this isn't just coming out of nowhere. Every single person here has participated in that process. So again, that storytelling is so critical and part of how we can be successful and making those arguments that this is necessary. I honestly don't foresee any opposition to this. I think I don't anticipate that as far as your advocacy goes, because there's so much passion and compassion for this process and for what needs to happen next. And thankfully, I think with our elected officials today, a lot of trust in the process that you all have endured through and participated in. So I think just being able to provide that testimony, and then other possible, promotion. As it turns out, a lot of our legislators are on Twitter, on Facebook, on social media while we're in session. So they look forward to you having that conversation with them there if you can't be there, depending on how much allowance there is going to be for in person. But definitely keeping a pulse on how it's moving through the process and making sure you have designated folks watching how it's going through to make sure that they're there when there is an opportunity to speak. And that's also between Rep. Lewis and I. If we're, sponsoring those bills, then absolutely, we're going to let you know too, anything that we know, and whoever your sponsor is, to let them know if things are changing or an agenda switches or we're meeting later, we're going to have a caucus, things like that are happening so quickly in that 30 days. So just keeping a pulse with your legislator who's sponsoring is really critical as well.
And I agree.
you.
And I just have
Oh, yes,
one more
please.
point, if I can add on. One pagers with, information are really helpful. If it's more than one pagers, I think folks put it aside. So if you're sending in, emails or printing things and having them at every legislator's desk or in their mailbox, just make sure that it's no longer than a page. And again, just being as concise as possible.
Thank you. I really do like the idea of a phone tree, even if it's an email tree, possibly, where we all be able to contact each other and kind of track the bills as they go through and let everybody know where it's going, where it's headed, and a play-by-play would be awesome. And then also to the one-pagers as well. For that one-pager idea, are there any specific formats that you would look for, and how can they capture that storytelling in that format? Or is it better to do to verbally provide the storytelling to the committee?
So I think if you're able to participate in person, being there to express yourself verbally is really important for storytelling. I think once people start telling stories in committee, then you can see legislators, raise their heads and they're really active listening at that point. If you're not able to participate, perhaps put a photo of you or the person that has impacted your decision to get involved, and then just put a short story together. I support House Bill whatever, I support Senate Bill whatever, and these are the reasons why. This is what it does. Just pretty much being as basic but informative as possible, because especially during the 60-day, but even during the 30-day, There's so much buzz about, folks wanting certain bills or opposing certain bills that it's really hard for us to, if someone says, will you support, House Bill 261, like I have no idea what that is. So make sure that you describe what the bill does and the short title of it. Otherwise, it kind of gets lost in all the hustle and bustle.
Yeah, that's absolutely so correct. And what I would add to the one pager is we love bullet points and we love data as well. So if you say with this, legislation, it will impact X amount of lives. With this, these full-time employees, it will impact X amount of people throughout the state or in these communities directly. It's just putting together a lot of that information about here's how we're filling in the gaps, and this is why it's so critical. If you can even have that in a one sentence bullet, or that's the caption, this is the importance of this, you're actually doing a lot of the jobs of the analysts who may not fully understand what it is. And some of the legislators that may see confusion in any of that. So any messaging that you have helps us also message when we're looking at the bills. So really almost word for word, it helps us with talking to the press, everything else. Like we're actually taking those words and being able to represent them the way that the task force sees that. So that's what I would encourage as well.
Thank you. And just one more logistics question before I do ask about maybe your priorities for those upcoming sessions. In terms of getting on the list to be able to testify in front of a committee, how does that work? I know within the virtual setting, there is that process too, where you have people calling in from the last session, and then maybe if it's in person, it's a little different. Do you have any guidance on that right now? It may not be, information not be concrete right now, but any thoughts?
Yeah, I would just say going back to the logistics and the teams that are sort of like tracking bills, is just to some committees require that you in advance get signed up for testimony, and some just say show up that day or that moment and we'll let you speak. So I think really relative to the community and the committee, and of course the Senate is different than the House and how they operate. So just tracking that, and we can help. I mean, I can help with the process of saying, is this committee meeting today, and are we giving public testimony? Because on big issues like this, you may have hundreds of people wanting to speak, and then they want to plan for that itself. So keeping that communication with staff and with your bill sponsors absolutely will help with logistics on making sure that as many people who can attend do, and they're are all registered or they're ready to call in or be present for that as well.
Yeah, so I think it's really important that the House and the Senate do operate differently. So finding out once the session begins what the process is for both. It's probably unknown at this time because I don't know. I know the goal is to have an in-person session, but depending on how the pandemic rolls out, over the session, we're not sure about how that's going to happen. But maybe if we can put a point person with IAD, and Rep Romero and I can help gather that information once it's available to, here's how you contact the Senate or testify in committee, here's how the House goes. Again, the House, when we were operating virtually, it was just show up on Zoom and raise your hand and we'd be able to call on you. I know the Senate had advanced registration requirements, so we can work that out once we're more aware of how that's going to roll out. Yeah. And then, when you are providing testimony too, it's just always really important to go through the chair. So always start out with, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. So that's generally how you go back and forth. And if you're able to have bullet points, so you can stay on point and perhaps even practice before you present to the committee. Again, just because everything happens so fast, and I think our minds are, focused on 2 minutes, and then after that we get distracted. So any way that we can be most efficient is really helpful.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm still learning that, Mr. Chair, Madam Chair, lingo. So thank you for acknowledging that as well. Also, task force members, if you have a question, please feel free to raise your hand. I'm going to ask the representatives for their priorities for this next session, but please raise your hand and we'll go to you right after this for a short Q&A. And I'll start with either one, whoever wants to go first, on any thoughts on the next session, your priorities.
Well, this is absolutely a priority for me. So if there's, if you're looking for a sponsor, I 100% want to build on what we started in 2019. As I spoke with, Stephanie and Secretary Trujillo just yesterday, this is just an absolute phenomenon, what you all have created and what you've put your time into. It's truly inspiring and truly an honor to be a part of at all, to have been able to get this started as such a fledgling even idea. So just again, anything that we can do to give justice to our communities who have for too long been waiting in the lurch to find the tools and resources, and you have identified them. For me, it's absolutely what we need to do with our state, and I think everything that you've cohered around and come up with is something that fits in all of the innovation that we need in how we move forward in public safety and keeping people safe. So I just want to just shout from the rooftops how incredible it has been that you've come this far despite everything as well. I mean, it's truly inspiring. So if this is a priority for you, it's a priority for me. And so I just want to put it out there that I would do what I can to make sure it's back on the call.
Whoa, there are like a lot of priorities. We are primarily going to be focused on budget. So I think ensuring that we have funds available for education, especially Yazi Martinez. I mean, definitely the office of MMIWR is really important. One of the other things that I've been working on is passing a state Indian Child Welfare Act. So the governor is willing to put that on the call, and I've been working with the tribal leaders since the bill didn't pass in this past session. But there's also a law. I am a representative in Albuquerque. We are going to have a crime package that's really important too. So there's so many priorities. Again, it's just going to be very challenging to get a lot done in a 30-day session, but we're all here. We're all dedicated to making sure that things get done. I know there's going to be, a surplus of funds, so ensuring that capital outlay is really used to target those communities in need, especially tribal communities. So there's a lot of priorities, but I'll personally be carrying the state EQUA bill. I'm also carrying a bill to ensure that tribes are able to implement their gross receipt taxes on tribal lands. So it's already, winding up to be a very busy session, but of course we're here to help to support you and all of your efforts. And again, we just thank you so much for all of your hard work. And I'm very optimistic that both will pass.
Well, thank you for indulging me in my questions. I know some of them are really expansive, so thank you. Is there any questions from the task force for our representatives? And if not, I will defer to the team. Lily, if anybody else has a question that I may have not have asked.
But I think you covered the questions beautifully, and representatives, thank you both so much for helping all of us learn more about how to be effective and partner well with each of you and your colleagues in trying to move things forward that we care about. So thank you for that. Last call though, if there's anybody who has a question, we certainly, sometimes you're taking in information and need a moment to think of what we want to ask. So I want to give people that chance.
I would just, my question is to everyone here too. How many of you have ever participated in state governmental lawmaking? If you haven't raised your hand, virtually or otherwise, I would just encourage that you do participate. I think it only gets better the more we get people, as part of what reflects the things that you are what you are a part of and what you care about. And until, elected officials hear that, sometimes it doesn't connect. And so if you haven't participated in a session, even if that doesn't even mean anything to you, what does that even mean? I think just going on that journey of, being able to have these conversations with elected officials, how the process works, it gets easier every single time you do it. And, I'm still new here, but, it's something that I think I would encourage everyone to participate in, even if you're just calling in or watching the proceedings, just to get your feet on the ground. But definitely, if you haven't, please participate with us in January.
Thank you. Representative Lewis?
I'd really like to echo that. It's really important that you participate. I think, the more that you become familiar with the process, it's more encouraging to be able to speak out and to really have your voices heard. So that's really important. And all of our sessions are archived. Again, if you go to nmlegis.gov, you can look at, okay, I want to look at, a House Judiciary Committee meeting, and you can see how that process is, especially when you have folks that are providing testimony. That's all in there and recorded. I don't know if there's like an index. If you're looking for a specific subject, that's something I'm not familiar with. But if you just want to become more familiar with the process, that's one way to do it. But yes, I love that everyone has so far participated in this task force, and that's a process. So if you're looking to participate in the session, we look forward to hearing from you or your family. And I know folks are really big on social media, and I'm unfortunately, just crazy busy, but if you're able to do a selfie or have someone take a photo of you providing testimony and share that on social media to say, look, I participated because this is so important to me, or because I'm supporting this bill or that bill. I think just bringing awareness and education to everyone that the state capital of New Mexico here is the people's house. And we're very open to the public, and your legislators are very accessible.
Thank you. And,
Lily?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Excuse me. I was just going to say one great thing, since I do work with policy analysis, is that you can look at the subcommittee or the committees, that committee page, and you can see by subject matter what area your interested subject is. So say if it was, produce water, maybe go to the Water and Natural Resources Committee and go through different agendas and see, kind of pinpoint where that conversation might be. But I just wanted to add that really quickly. I know it's definitely a website that people need to learn how to navigate. I definitely had a steep learning curve, but thanks, Lily. Sorry about that.
Thank you, Eldred. I was just sitting here listening and thinking of like 5 hot tips. There's also there's the ability to look up bills by their number once those bill numbers are assigned. And then you can see what committee it's slated for. You can also have set up where there's alerts that come into your email telling you when something's on the agenda, contact information for our legislators. So maybe we can plan one of our sessions in December to do some navigating around on nmlegis.gov. The other thing that I want to say, and Representatives Romero and Lewis were much too modest to do this. And while I appreciate that, I think it's important that we as New Mexicans know that they do this entirely voluntarily. We're the only legislature left in this country who has a completely volunteer legislator. And, I've had the privilege of working in legislatures in other states as well when I was away from home and federally. And the the humanity and the accessibility and the getting it, the level of getting it that our legislators have is unmatched. The humanity and working with each other as people in a good way is, while there is, a level of formality, and right, we never want to forget that or disrespect that, there's also a level of humanity that just isn't common in other places that I've worked. And so we have something really special here at home that these leaders are a part of, and that we have more access to be a part of than in many other places in the country. So let's take advantage of our access to democracy here, right? So thank you both. All right, and then there's a couple of shout outs going on in the chat. Jose Villegas says, Hermana Andrea, gracias for leading the charge on the original bill for this task force. So people see that history and know that story of your hard work and advocacy. And then Linda Thompson is saying, thank you, sharing this and getting us involved in this legislative process is so awesome. Thank you. So big shout out to both of you and appreciate that. So friend, any last words, representatives or
I just want
Eldred?
to thank you all. I know you have a lot, still have a full agenda. I just want to thank you all again for your participation. Please stay in touch. And, if we're gearing up in December, any way that I can be a resource to you to help with getting ready for January, because we will be there in December. We have redistricting coming up in early December as well. So we'll be in session before that. So we'll get a little bit more probably of the logistics of what it'll be like in January. So we'll share that with you as soon as we know as well. But thank you all. Have a great rest of your day and week.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just also want to say thank you very much. This is all so much important work. And again, I know how difficult it is to take time away from your family and your work and everything. So you're much appreciated. And I hope that you are rewarded and blessed with much more in return. And we look forward to seeing you and more of your advocacy in the future. Thank you, Tawa'a.
Thank you. All right, friends, we are going to take a looks like Beata, did you have a question or a comment?
No, thank you.
Okay,
Just
sorry,
unmuted
your
by
little
accident.
box went yellow, so my bad. So want to give everybody 3 or 4 minutes to quick grab something to drink, take a bio break, take care of yourselves, but please be back by 12:50 and we'll get going again. We're going to be doing a group exercise and then breaking out into small groups. We really need you to hang in there for this because your good thinking, your insights, your resources and knowledge are going to help really make sure that we're pulling together a response plan that is as impactful as it can be. So see you in a few. 12:50.